All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. We are so excited to have you here today to learn more about our brand new 3D printer, the Core 5 Series XL385, and its translucent companion resin called HD Clear. During the webinar, we'll go over special features and applications of these new products, as well as let you in on how some of the world's largest medical device brands are leveraging them. I'm Rachel with B9 Creations, and I will be joined by Eric, our sales engineer, as well as Danny, who is VP of Sales and Marketing here at B9 Creations. Both of them will be helping facilitate this webinar, as well as answering questions during our live Q&A session. If you have questions, feel free to submit them in the Q&A box, and we will answer them at the end. B9 Creations' differentiated approach to solving problems with 3D printing has developed a fan base in a wide variety of industries, including jewelry, medical, aerospace, and beyond. This has positioned us to enable our customers to progress from prototyping to fully scaled production, leveraging additive manufacturing. Our track record of exceeding customer requirements has also helped us to be named on the list you see here at the bottom of the slide. You can see here our global network in nearly 70 countries around the world. While we're headquartered here in South Dakota in the US, we also have offices in Denver, Colorado, and in Dallas, Texas, as well as strategic partners and dealers across the globe. Here you can see a sampling of our customer base across different industries, from healthcare and aerospace to consumer tech, research, jewelry manufacturing, as well as our new custom division called B9X, where we develop tailored additive solutions specific to customer needs. Now, Eric, I'd love to kick it over to you to tell us a little bit more about this new workflow from our software to the XL and MedXL 385 to our new HD Clear material and all the way through post-processing.
Absolutely. Thank you, Rachel. First off, if anybody hasn't been introduced to this yet via our marketing department, this is our new Core 5 Series 385 platform. It's available both in the medically device certified category as well as the industrial category. The main bullet points that I'm going to talk about here are just, build volume. This is actually the same size as its companion machine, which is a 405 nanometer wavelength light source printer. That gives you an X and Y build area of about 125 millimeters by 70 millimeters, just to give you a rough idea. This does use our fast technology that is delivered via our B9 Create 2.0 CAM software. This device specifically uses a 385 nanometer light engine. And the reason that is important is actually pretty technical in nature, and it plays very nicely with this companion material that we're going to talk about here. The 385 nanometer wavelength light source actually allows us to control the light penetration inside of the material during the printing process. What that means from a layman's perspective is that we're able to get clear materials that stay clear and are highly accurate, which is something that's very difficult to do unless you're using this technology. Additionally, it has benefits for other materials, which we'll get into later as well. Bio white is one of those, and I'll talk about that in a slide a little bit further down.
And can you speak a bit about our fast technology and how it makes a difference for users of this platform by offering exceptional resolution, even with that larger build area?
Yeah, absolutely. So the previous trade-off that most customers were faced with was having to choose between resolution and build volume. Our fast technology negates that because we're using software to actually enable us to, and I'm oversimplifying here, but split a pixel. And, that gets a little down deep into how the technology of our printer works. But what we're able to do utilizing that fast technology is create a smoother surface finish on radiused or very slightly angled surfaces than you would normally be able to do on a DLP printer of this build volume. That enables our customers to not only get the better surface finish, but the thing that we've also built into this is better dimensional accuracy as well.
Awesome, thank you so much. All right, and this next thing here, so a quick introduction is across a fleet of B9 Creations printers, the dimensional variation between the CAD file and the 3D printed part was equivalent to the size of a single human cell, exceeding the tolerance levels of traditional and precision manufacturing equipment, and opening the door to full-scale production in the additive manufacturing space, an industry promise that until now has remained unfulfilled. Eric, do you mind sharing a bit more about the technology that makes this possible and, you know, about the importance of printer to printer repeatability as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll start off with why it's important. In the production environment, this is a scenario that pretty much everybody is faced with if they're following standard protocols for producing parts. You have to qualify your devices to be able to produce those parts. And then you have to run quality checks on those components. And this is all part of that process, right? So you need to know from a user standpoint, hey, if I pull in one of these machines into my process, I qualify it, I get it to work. How hard is it for me to qualify a second one? And what we're moving towards here is the ability to tell you that's going to be very simple as long as your tolerances are within, you know, the numbers we're talking about right here. The way that we're achieving this is actually a couple fold, but what I'm going to talk about specifically is the way that we calibrate our printers. What we are introducing here is a new method of calibration that occurs at the factory. As with the rest of our product portfolio, this is not something that we're going to put on the user. You do not have to calibrate our printers when you get them out of the box, nor after a year of use. They're going to stay at this performance level. What's being introduced here, specifically on the medical devices, is the variability between printers has been reduced greatly by the internal calibration processes we're using, down to the point where we can claim deviations down to the sizes that are mentioned on this slide here. Maybe Danny, if you wanted to chime in on some more details for that.
Absolutely. You know, a lot of focus and additive is on a tolerance stack up within a printer, and that's critical. You need the material and your resin tray and the printer producing your desired results. But what's less talked about industry-wise is what Eric's alluding to, which is what is my variable across the tray and then printer to printer. So even before I get to the qualification point, I know that if I have an R&D team here, an R&D team on another continent, they're producing the same results. Just as R&D is moving to product design, is moving to short run production, to have that consistency, we really see as a key, not only to getting accurate parts at the beginning, but moving through that value stream and being able to deliver an end product that's exactly like what you had designed when you embarked on that journey. So like Eric said, this is huge on all platforms, but it's one we're specifically rolling out on all of our medical equipment compliant devices.
Awesome. Thank you for that further explanation, Danny. All right. We partnered with an R&D department at one of the world's largest medical device manufacturers who needed to produce high resolution parts without sacrificing the advantage of having a larger build platform. Danny, do you mind sharing a bit more about that partnership and how we were able to meet those customer needs?
Absolutely. So we're pretty well known, I would say, in the industry for delivering high resolution, ultra precise parts. But one of the key points is sometimes you need fluid flow through those parts. And up until now, we didn't have a material that was capable of having enough translucency where you would be able to see fluid flow. But what we didn't want to lose was that resolution. So this particular company had this exact challenge. I need to be able to produce larger parts. I don't want to lose my resolution, and I have to see fluid flow. And so the MedXL 385 actually was a slam dunk solution for them. It not only helped with their throughput and their turnaround time in terms of the number of iterations they were able to do when designing a part, but they also were getting hole sizes, as you can see, down to 250 microns, which is fairly difficult to do in a clear material when your whole printer platform uses light to cure those resins. So this was very critical to be able to have both. And that's the solution that the MedXL 385 provided for this particular company. Rachel?
Thanks, Danny. All right, and I'd like to open the floor back up to you, Eric, so you can dive into the special features and applications of our brand new HD Clear material.
Absolutely. So I touched on this a little bit before, but the HD Clear material is available exclusively on our 385 platforms. It is a clear, colorless material. It comes off the printer in a somewhat frosty finish, I would call it, after your post-processing is complete. It's polishable, coatable. You can gain a glass-like surface finish through various means, depending on kind of what works best for your application. In terms of material properties, this is what we were referring to as an acrylic-like material. Now, I don't mean that it is chemically similar to acrylic. I mean that it behaves with the strength properties that are similar to acrylic. So an engineer that's used to producing parts in an acrylic thermoplastic material is going to see similar results producing a part on our 3D printer with this material as he would through the traditional thermoplastic processes. The main draws to this material are what I've already mentioned: the high clarity, the colorlessness, the polishability. This is great for fluid flow things, but we can also technically get into lenses and light pipes. There's a lot of different applications, both in the medical and industrial sectors, that require clear parts, both completely, glass-like clear, and I'll call them translucent, to direct light, control light, pass light. It's a very big deal, actually, for a lot of industries, and we're excited to bring this to the table. The thing that Danny alluded to previously is, we were hearing customer requests for a material that had these properties, but we were unwilling to do that and sacrifice our resolution, our speed, the things that we're known for as a brand. And what we've achieved here with the HD Clear material is one of, if not the highest definition clear materials on the market today, with resolutions down into the sizes of 250 microns in some cases, that has a fantastic surface finish, and is going to meet, I think, a lot of needs for people who are in the small part, high detail game.
Awesome. Thank you for that explanation, Eric. All right, and we're going to go over another case study here. We had the opportunity to work with a leading medical center to help them create enclosures for electronics, as well as some other components. Danny, will you explain how the MedXL 385 and our suite of materials were leveraged to make this happen?
Absolutely. So unlike the last case study where it was an addition of a 3D printing capability to a suite, this particular customer was actually outsourcing all of their additive manufacturing. So when they were trying to decide which technology to bring in-house, it was not only important that they had the components they needed, the right material suite, high precision, speed, but it also had to be very plug and play. This was their first introduction to leveraging that in-house. And so what Eric talked about with the calibration only at the factory, the fact that you can push roughly 5 buttons and you're printing something at the end, as well as it being manufactured here in the US with lifetime free tech support, all of those played a big role in their selection of this technology as the first one to bring in-house. The reason the Med 385 and Clear was selected is they had already been doing a lot of high precision electronic enclosures. But oftentimes when you go into testing, like Eric talked about, they need something that they can detect light on to make sure that all of the electronics are working properly and can talk to each other. And so clear was huge for that, because then you don't have to worry about the color of LEDs being masked by the color of the translucent resin you're using. So it was huge to them that they not only had a suite of engineering materials, biocompatible materials, but clear really was the thing that pushed them over the edge to be able to bring this in-house.
All right, we want to share just one more case study on the clinical side, where we assisted a healthcare service bureau who wanted to expand their offering to the clinical space and to find a solution that facilitates large-scale production as well. Danny, will you share a bit more about that?
Absolutely. This is back when we talked about that new calibration feature that we've started implementing. This is a beautiful example of when that matters, even outside of some in-use medical device parts, which is where if I'm doing high throughput and large scale production, I need all my machines producing the same result every time. That was a big driver of their decision behind bringing this technology and dropping it into their service bureau, which had served other industries. But this would be the first foray, if you will, into the clinical space. So anatomical models, surgical instruments, teaching aids, looking for something that can do supply chain alternatives, where maybe it's an expensive, high lead time, high minimum order quantity type part that they're trying to figure out, can I do this additively, faster, cheaper, but with just as much accuracy as before? So they adopted several actually of our B9 Core MedXL 385s and have since launched that with a plug and play solution that makes this adoption really easy. The nice part about leveraging Clear for anatomical models is the same reason you want fluid flow in devices. It's easily visible, and you can start to use different resins to construct different surgical cases when you go into the planning.
Thank you, Danny. All right, and we wanted to spend a little bit of time to help our audience understand where these two products fit within our printer line and our resin portfolio. Eric, could you talk a little bit about that, as well as about the other materials that are available on this printer, from biocompatible to engineering and even mold making materials?
Absolutely. So both of these products, both 385 printers, come with nearly our full suite of material offerings. I say nearly because there is an exception for a few of our castable materials. What you're going to notice is similar performance as you're used to on the 385, the 405 printers that have been out for a while now. On the majority of our product portfolio in terms of the resins, with the exception again of HD Clear and Bio White, and in some cases even our HD Slate or micro precision materials, having higher detail, and that's simply because of what I mentioned earlier. There's this interaction between the printer and the resin during the printing process. And with 385 nanometer light source, we're actually able to control that interaction more tightly. So that gives us the ability to print clears that are high detail and fully clear. That gives us the ability to take an existing material like a Bio White or an HD Slate and actually give even more surface finish, more dimensional accuracy to existing products. Where this fits into our product portfolio, obviously it comes right alongside its sister machine that's in the 405 nanometer wavelength configuration. Very similar in terms of what it's capable of producing there. Similar resin portfolios on both. The 405 nanometer printer does have the ability to go into those castable materials if you're if you're in that industry. This is a complementary device to our other printers that are smaller in build platform but higher in resolution. The B9 Core 550, the B9 Core 530, as well as a suite of other devices that you can find on our website, www.b9c.com. and by calling us, because a lot of the things that we do, you're not actually able to find on our website. And if you have a solution that you think, hey, this technology looks really cool, and some of these parts coming off of here look like they are what I need, but maybe my part doesn't fit, or maybe you don't exactly have the material on your website that I am kind of looking for, give us a call. Let us talk that through with you, and come alongside you and partner with you to create those sorts of successes within your business.
Yeah, thanks, Eric. And kind of to your point there as well is one of the great things is that you can print molds and shoot them with your desired material if none of our resins in our portfolio meet your specific needs. And we do also have an open platform, so researchers who need to develop their own resins can do so. All right, and now we are just going to take some time to answer the questions that were submitted throughout the webinar. Eric, are there any differences when it comes to supporting and post-processing clear?
Yeah, I could speak to that a little bit. So if you are familiar at all with printing with our black resin, it's actually going to be very similar to that. So it prints in its green state, or that's the period of time in between the printing process and the post-curing process. It prints in its green state in a very stiff format. So it's actually quite good at doing things like overhangs and things that are typically a little bit challenging with additive technologies. There's really nothing special to consider in terms of the way that you support the part. You can use the same size of supports that you would normally do. You can position them in the same or similar places. They're not going to create, because we're doing this with a specific light engine. You're not going to create various areas where Z-bleed is going to damage your part based upon where you're putting a support or anything like that. One thing to keep in mind that is very different about the way that you would process a clear part is that the post-processing times are greatly reduced. So we're able to go from our standard 10 to 20 minute post-curing in our B9 post-cure devices to somewhere in the neighborhood of 1 to 5 minutes, depending on your geometries. So that part of the process is actually faster. That would be the only difference, I think, that is worth mentioning. The cleaning times are approximately the same. Very low swelling or isopropyl alcohol absorption. Uses the same cleaning processes as the rest of our portfolio.
Awesome, thank you. And why is the Core XL 385 better for high precision 3D printing? Why does it deliver that better resolution?
Yeah, that's really enabled by the fast technology that we spoke about before. And if you couple it with the manufacturing calibration techniques that we're employing here at the factory, specifically on medical devices, that creates a very powerful team. So what you wind up with is, a digital version, a digital translation that the printer can use that has higher fidelity to the original CAD model. You also have a printer that's calibrated such that, like Danny alluded to earlier, a part placed anywhere on the build table is going to print within a very tight tolerance of the other part, as well as back to that original CAD model from the fast technology. And then printer to printer to printer, you're going to see similar results as well with similar tolerances. That all combined together gives us the ability to print these high detail parts on the larger platform.
Awesome. And kind of circling back here to post-processing, we have a question here about whether or not you see the clarity of the material reduce or become more hazy the longer it's been exposed to IPA during that cleaning process.
Yeah, so interaction with IPA is part of the reason that the material does come out in almost a matte or a frosted finish, just straight using the normal processes. Like I mentioned before, there's a couple of ways to gain that clarity back. One of them is polishing. One of them is clear coating or dip coating. There's a couple different techniques we've utilized in-house that actually use cleaning processes outside of isopropyl alcohol. And we're working on developing and establishing those protocols so that you can have those same repeatable results and maintain that clarity if the clarity is truly what you're after.
Great. And we have another question here about printing with clear materials and its effect on your resin tray life. So, is it more susceptible, excuse me, to ghosting or clouding with clear materials?
Yeah, so this material also prints on our new fast vat technology, of which we have a couple different flavors of that. This material specifically is designed to be printed on one of those flavors. And as far as the lifetime of the vat is concerned, if you're using exclusively clear material, we've seen zero degradation over hundreds and hundreds of prints based upon the clear resin. And that's whether or not you're leaving the resin sit in the tray. There is no effect on the tray or the printing window from the chemistry of the material itself or the printing process.
Great, thank you. And I know you spoke on it a little bit about how you can take HD clear from that translucent state to a fully transparent and a glass-like state. Will you speak just a bit more about those processes and what you can do to make that material fully transparent?
Yeah, absolutely. So the choice you make here is kind of dependent on your specific geometry and your specific applications. But there's a couple different paths you can take. If you have a part that is mostly external features and not a lot of them are super tight together, maybe your best bet here is like a polishing technique. And what that's going to look like is various steps through a polishing compound. In some cases, you may need to go into a very, very high grit sandpaper to completely, remove all evidence of printing artifact whatsoever. But in most cases, you're going to be able to get there with a simple polishing compound on a polishing wheel. And this is something that I think probably a lot of industrial places are relatively used to doing on plastics and resins specifically already. So that should shoehorn into a lot of processes that people who make these types of things are already doing today. Another methodology, if you're utilizing the, say your geometry looks something like that little bottle that we had up on a slide a couple slides ago. You need to be able to get both sides of the material to have that clarity in order to have a true glass-like appearance. This is a case where you might want to utilize a coating method, specifically if you don't have any worries about tolerance buildup, because this is adding a small amount of tolerance to your part. You can do that a couple different ways. You can apply it via spray, brush, dip. But the goal of that is to just get every surface of the part completely coated, so that you have that clarity on all faces. And in that case, the part is going to look pretty much exactly like glass.
Great. And unless you have anything else to add, I believe we have answered all the questions that have come in throughout the webinar.
Awesome. Nothing to add for me. I'm just happy to answer any questions that anybody else may have. Please get a hold of us if you think of anything after the webinar, and we will be happy to talk through your application and your business model.
Yeah, like Eric said, if you have any questions, feel free to contact us at the email address or the phone number that's listed at the bottom of the slide here. And if you'd like to learn more about these new products or would like to request a sample, you can connect with one of our solutions experts to do so. Thanks again, everyone, for joining us.